Welcome back. We have our good buddy Dan Oweiler here today, Sterling Financial Advisors, and this is something that we're going to talk about today in the stock market, buy and hold strategy.
It's been a few weeks.
It has been. It's good to see you. Had a good time in Hawaii.
Yeah, my wife and I got away for a couple weeks, went over to Hawaii, and unfortunately we had to come back.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have a pile of emails and mail, and you need to go away again to recover. So,
well, I'm sure your family, your sons and son-in-law and everyone,
they're there to answer the phone and things. So
today, buy and hold strategy, that is certainly something that people have talked about for decades.
Right.
And I certainly remember that basically in the 80s and 90s. Of course, as you know, back then the stock market was averaging maybe 2,000 or something like that in the mid-90s.
Right.
And if the stock market moved maybe 5 points that day,
that was a big day.
That was a big day.
10 points, 15 points,
It's a different world out there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so tell us about
the
strategy
buy and
nowadays.
hold. The buy and hold strategy has been around for a long time, like we said. The theory behind it is you buy a set of stocks or mutual funds and just hold them for an indefinite period of time, no matter what happens to the market, whether it goes up, whether it goes down, those types of things. And over the long run, supposedly it will give you a good return.
Right.
That buy and hold strategy kind of was put into the background a little bit when what they call day trading came in. You know, during the big .com bubble and things like that, people were doing what they call day trading and trading stocks every day, just getting a small gain from what the change in the market was. And so the buy and hold strategy was kind of put on the back burner, so to speak, but there were still people that I meet with that said, I've held this stock for 15, 20 years. My dad's had the stock for 15, 20 years prior to that, and so we just buy and hold that.
Right.
And so the theory behind the buy and hold is so you don't jump in and out of the market all the time and you kind of go through these ups and downs. Well, that can work depending upon your stage in life.
Right.
You know, when you're younger, you have the time to buy and hold. When you're maybe moving into retirement or in seniors, the buy and hold tends to maybe not give you enough time to do that because the stock market's a little bit more dicey these days.
Yeah, and I know, looking over some of the slides that you gave me here, I think one of the most interesting ones is the Dow. We're looking at 1999 compared to January 2016.
Well, I sat down with when I was working with a prospect. They came into the office and they were talking about the buy and hold strategy. And so what I did is I went back and I said, okay, for the last 16 years, how has the market done in regards to a buy and hold strategy? And so I looked at the numbers on December 31st. 1999, and the Dow Jones was at 11,497.
Right.
And then I looked at it, that was the last day of trading for that year. And then the first day of trading of 2016, on 1/3/2016, it was at, I think, 16,466. So that was a difference of about 43% over that 16-year period.
Exactly.
Now, in between that time, obviously, the market went up and the market went down. But if you were in a buy and hold situation to where you just held on to the stocks, or it went up 43% over 16 years. Well, if you divide 43 by 16, you had an average return of 2.7%, which, risking your market, I'm not looking to get 2.7%.
Exactly,
you want to get a little bit higher than that. And so,
going back to 1999, that was probably closer to what back then what savings accounts were getting.
Right, exactly.
So
exactly.
Yeah,
and so a lot of people say, well, if we can buy and hold, we're probably going to average about 7 to 10% on our money. Well, over the last 16 years, we've averaged 2.7%.
Yeah, interesting.
And so the risk return really, didn't justify it if you're just in this buy and hold strategy. What I found is the buy and hold doesn't do us any good if we don't lock in the gains. You know, if you ride the market up and you ride it down, those gains don't do you any good unless you lock them in. And so a lot of it just depends on where we are as far as the stage we are in our life. You know, even if the market's close to 18,000 today, okay? So since the beginning of the year, it's kind of come back a little bit, but even if you took it and you did the difference between, you know, December 31st, 1999 and today, which is about 18,000, the return is still only about 3.5%.
Right.
Average return.
And when you talk about locking in your gains,
that means selling them and
exactly.
and getting a capital gain on it.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
we're going to have to pay some taxes, but paying the 15% in capital gains is a lot better than if the market turns and it drops 10 or 15 or 20%.
Exactly.
You know? And so the buy and hold strategy is going to work for those people that will take advantage of the highs, okay, and sell their because if all you're going to do is have it go up, have it go down, and you never sell, you're going to, over the last 16 years, you average 2.7%. Okay.
Right, a lot different than what it was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Exactly.
When people would buy those, what they were called blue chip stocks. And
Coca-Colas and
you just kind of parked them in there for a while.
Right.
Of course,
you can do that.
Yeah.
But you just have to understand that if you don't take advantage of the highs and lock them in, you're just, you know, it just depends on when you need that money.
Exactly.
You know?
And then isn't the other thing that needs to be looked at the difference between maybe growth stocks you're looking at versus dividend paying stocks as well. A lot of those blue chip stocks, it was about the dividends, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And if that's the case, you know, you can kind of buy and hold as long as they're paying a good dividend, okay? And so if you don't care about how the market value of the stock and all you want to do is get the dividend, then you can maybe use that buy and hold. But if you're using that to prop up your portfolio and if you don't lock in those gains when the market is up, then those are just kind of funny money, so to speak.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Because the gains, you haven't taken advantage of the gains. Now, if you're 35, 40 years old and you've got the time to be able to do that, that's okay. But generally, the people that we're working with are getting ready to retire or in retirement, and you can't afford to make that money up sometimes. And so we don't have the time frame, and how we invest our money at age 45 is different than how we invest it at age 65 or 70.
Exactly. What about those, the type of stocks that I think years ago there was far more that probably paid dividends than they do now? A lot of the .com stocks
Well,
don't.
they never, they never paid dividends.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
I mean, the valuation of those high-tech stocks are fairly out of this world.
Right.
I mean, just the valuations that they have, you know, and so those are more towards the more aggressive type of investor, you know, to where they're not going to worry about the dividends. They want the growth out of that. Well, sometimes that worked out, sometimes it didn't. You know, it just depends on that. So a lot of it just depends on what the overall goals of the individual investor is. Am I going to take a small portion of my portfolio and try to risk it to build it up, or do I want to protect my money in this situation that I'm in, where I'm in retirement? I can't afford to lose, you know, the value of my portfolio.
Right.
I had a lady in yesterday. You know, she's not real wealthy and was concerned that she says, I can't invest my money because I can't afford to lose it. You know, well, in that particular situation, you don't want to be in the stock market.
Right,
you know,
exactly.
I mean, you've got to go into, you know, the 1% CDs or maybe some safe annuities or something like that to protect the principal. But people that can't afford to lose money shouldn't be in the stock market.
Right.
You
I
know?
mean, we would all like to protect our principal and be gaining 7, 8, 9% every year.
Right.
But that's just not out there nowadays.
Right.
You don't have those CDs like you used to.
Well, I also met with another lady that came to one of our seminars, and earlier this week, she owns an insurance company, and she's concerned about retiring in 4 or 5 years. And so we've talked about this before. The thing that we do is that we will set up what we call our retirement weather report, which is kind of like your forecast earlier before, where you were kind of showing out what was going to happen over the next week. Well, we kind of forecast what's going to happen in retirement based upon certain assumptions. We'll do that for people at no charge, just to give us a foundation to base our discussions on as to where we are in regards to retirement. Do I have to work another 3 or 4 years? Do I have enough money to retire now? when do I take Social Security? Those types of things are all plugged into that. And it gives us it kind of spits out a report that tells us, based upon these assumptions, this is how much income you're going to be able to get and how much assets you're going to have at the end of 30 years.
Right,
you know,
exactly.
So it's a good income projection, retirement projections on going forward that can help us formulate what kind of approach we take in our investing.
And even with Social Security, there were just recent changes put out this year as far as distributions for children and or spouses and things like that.
They used to be able to, there was what they call file and suspend.
Yes.
You know, and a husband or a wife could file for Social Security at age 66, so they could, so the spouse could qualify for the spousal benefit.
Right.
Well, they've kind of eliminated that to kind of put a hole in that. And good and bad, depending upon which side of the table you're on, but it is propping up Social Security a little bit better.
Right.
So it might last a little bit longer, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so, you know, people look at that and, you know, they're mad at the government, but at the same time, if we don't do something to prop up Social Security, none of us might have any benefits.
They basically took away the suspend part of it.
Correct.
So if you want to get those for your, like in my case, it would be my daughter will still be in school when I'm 66.
Right.
And if that provision stays true, then that means I will have to start collecting at 66.
Right.
I will still get benefit for her as well. But
you can't get benefit for her unless you're taking the income.
Exactly.
And my wife, growing up, that situation was like her. You know, she came along a little bit later in the marriage.
Yeah.
And her father retired, okay, and she was able to get Social Security benefit, you know, while she was still in high school.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So some of those changes aren't good for individuals sometimes, but overall securing up Social Security is probably a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so the buy and hold strategy can work if you'll take advantage of the up markets and lock in your gains, but just kind of riding markets up and down, over the last 16 years, we've averaged somewhere between 2.7 and 3.5%, depending upon when you gauge that.
Exactly. Let me ask you something very quickly about the gains that you make. If you shift those out of the stock market and then place them into something else, an annuity or whatever it might be, you're not physically taking them out yet. Are there still tax consequences
depends
on
on if
that year, I should say?
Depends on if it's qualified or non-qualified money.
Okay.
If it's qualified money, like in an IRA or 401k, there are no taxes on that.
Okay.
Because you'll roll that over.
Sure.
If it's non-qualified money, you would still have to end up paying the capital gains on that, even though you invested it in an annuity or CD or whatever.
Okay, even though if you didn't physically take the money out.
Right.
All right, very good. Any more seminars coming up? I know you just had one a few days ago.
We do. We've got, we had one last night. We've got one on Monday and Wednesday and Thursday. So if they'd like to come to one of our seminars, they can give us a call. Our offices, we'd be happy to get them on board. We usually have them up at Ruth Chris in Irvine. We've got some over here in Laguna Niguel at Savannah Chop House or Salt Creek Grill, and so we're kind of in our seminar season right now. So.
All right, very good. Take advantage of that. Give Dan or anyone over there
or
a
if
call.
they'd like one of those retirement weather reports as well.
Yeah, exactly, and it is very helpful.
Yeah.
It definitely is. There's a number on the screen, 949-859-8900, sterlingfa.com, or dan@sterlingfa.com if you'd like to email him. And right up the road off in Mission Viejo on Acero, right next to the Social Security Department.
Right off of Alicia and Geronimo, our office.
Yeah, so it's very easy to get to. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
All right.
All right.
Take care,
Ken.
We'll be right back.
All right.